Welcome back to the Are You in the Book podcast. My name is Eric Wilbenaw, the president of the Baseball Bluebook. And today we have a special guest with us, head coach Tim Montez with Ottawa University of Arizona. Coach, how are you today?
Doing great.
Well,
Appreciate you having me.
Well, I appreciate you being on. And I know you've joined one of our colleagues, Walter Beatty, on his podcast. And I think it was a consortium of coaches at the NAIA level. So I enjoy talking one-on-one with coaches about really the journey and how they build the program and what's really important to them. And we're always looking for advice for our parents and players, the audience that's really listened to our podcast. So I'm real excited about getting into kind of the nuts and bolts of your program. And you've got a very long, very exciting career. And being at the NAIA, I think you're going to bring a lot of advice and just some good information between the different levels of baseball. Being that you've been at Division I, you've been a lot of places. Before we begin, Coach, I want to encourage everyone that is watching this to make sure that you do subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us along, and if you are watching on YouTube, do the same thing if you are listening to the audio version of this on Spotify or Apple. We appreciate all of our subscribers, and we are always trying to bring the best content to you guys, and we appreciate you guys, and it's why we do it. So, Coach, let's go ahead and begin with your journey. You've been to a number of places. I was looking at your bio. We'll spend a little bit about the journey and how you got to where you are, but I'm more concerned and interested in kind of what you're doing today. But go ahead and begin with an introduction and kind of your journey.
Well, again, my name's Tim Montez, and I'm the head coach over at Ottawa University, Arizona, or OUAZ, is the shorter version. But yeah, we started this thing about 7 years ago. This will be going on year number 8 from the ground up. Our mother campus is Ottawa University in Kansas. The school's been around for, over 160 years, I believe. But this is the second full campus out here in Surprise, Arizona. And they built the campus right across the street from the Royals Rangers Spring Training Complex. And that's where we practice and play our games. And so we're blessed there. And, we still have about 20 acres to build on here and for us, the next phase of the university. But everything's pretty much brand new. They did a really nice job with the facilities. And we have, I think, 27 athletic programs. So it's kind of crazy. But before that, I'm a Southern California kid. Grew up in Whittier, California, right around Orange County, Cerritos area, La Mirada. Played my college ball at Pepperdine University for Hall of Famer Dave Gorey. And actually started my coaching career at Pepperdine with Andy Lopez when Andy took over the program when he came in from Dominguez Hills. And I'm very fortunate that he gave me my first opportunity to be a Division I pitching coach. And then just kind of a lot of ups and downs and journeys. I look back and I kind of laugh because at that time when I was with Andy, I was married with an infant son making a whopping $5,000. And that included camps. But, so went from there to Cal State Northridge and then to University of Arkansas, coached with Coach DeBryan in the SEC for a number of years. And from there, Fresno State with Mike Batesole. And, was at UC Santa Barbara right after Pepperdine, before Northridge with Bob Bronsema. And then spent 11 years at Jacksonville University in Florida with Terry Alexander, and and then took over the program for him when he retired, and then I got a call from a newly hired AD, Kevin Steele, said, "Hey, your name's come up. Are you from the West Coast? And you'd be interested in starting a new program from the ground up." And I was like, "All right, Lord, what do you got in store for me?" And next thing I know, they flew my wife and I out and showed us the plans, and there was just one building. Everything was dirt. So for the first 3 years, I was selling dirt. And I was holding coaches' meetings out of my living room for the first 3 years. And but it's been a labor of love. The Lord works in mysterious ways, and it's neat to see the university grow and where it is today. And we still have a lot of challenges, but it's all worth it, because at the end of the day, it's about investing into these young student athletes, like all of the coaches that are in this business across the country, no matter what level or even what sport. And as long as you don't get confused that issue, I think you have a chance to make a big impact on these young men that we come in contact with.
Coach, I love what you said there. A lot of the coaches that are in this game, that's what they're really focused on. And I doing over 250 interviews with head coaches at all levels of baseball. One of the things that it shouldn't surprise me, it does, but it does surprise me of where their heart is and what their motivation is, and their real goal of raising these young men. And it always seems that baseball is that back half, right? The winning is great. We hate to lose more than we love to win, but it always is about the player. It's always about the development of the player. Maybe not the skills of development, but it's the development of the mind and who they are, and raising these men the right way. Coach, I typically don't ask this, but I want from an advice perspective of other coaches and as well as parents. You talked about, moving around. A lot of baseball coaches move around, right? When I, as a directory, we're updating the directory every year, and it seems to be about 30 to
Yeah.
40% of the teams are getting new personnel, new head coach. Um, why is that important to understand? What should a parent, as they're walking through the recruiting process, looking for colleges, why is that an important thing? Is it not important? What is your take on kind of hey, I'm a new coach here, or I've been here for a long time. What's important for a parent?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's being at the Division I level for 25 years, and uh, going into my 8th year here at the NAI level. Uh, the more and more as the years go on, this will be going to my 38th year of coaching. Uh, it comes down to the right fit. I don't care what sport you play, but you know that D1 headline is the one that gets a lot of young student athletes and parents, gives them a little bit of trouble, because sometimes they're not realistic in their expectations. Not that everybody shouldn't have that goal, but at the end of the day, you want to find the right fit academically, socially, uh, athletically, and for us, spiritually, because we're a private Christian institution. So,
Yeah.
um, that's the thing I always tell this student athlete is find the right fit. I mean, I can go back, and player after player after player. I mean, I remember having uh, Michael Bauman at Jacksonville University, where I recruited him out of Minnesota. And Michael he had some opportunities. He was a big time football player in high school in Minnesota. And he was a pitcher. Um, and he had opportunities, and different opportunities. And at the end of the day, I just told Michael and his family, I said, hey, there's no pressure here. I'm not going to give you 24 hours, 40 hours. You have to make a decision. I want you to talk about it as a family. I want you to pray on it. I want you to look at the positives and negatives. For you being a pitcher, who's going to be handling you 80% of the time when you come in? The head coach is great, but where are you going to help get developed?
Yeah.
And that, for me, those are the things that the parents need to ask, and be really concerned about, is what different levels as a student athlete are they going to fit into that environment the best? And Michael chose us, and then 3 years later he was a third round pick with the Orioles, and I just texted him the other day. He just got picked up by the Miami Marlins. They're in Colorado. This is his 5th team this year that he's pitched for in the last 3 or 4 months. It's and he has such a great outlook. He's like, oh, I'm racking up the frequent flyer miles, coach. And he goes, but he's realistic. He's like, I'm happy to still be, pitching in the big leagues. And
Yeah.
but that's just an example for him, being a Midwest kid, and up in Minnesota, and finding his niche. Jacksonville was a small school of 3,000 students. It was a private school, and so that's the thing that the parents need to, is he going to thrive in a, going to, let's say Arizona State where there's 80,000 plus students,
Right.
um, or is he going to go to a school like, you know, uh, Pepperdine University where there's 3,000 to 4,000 students. So those are, I think, the things that the parents really need to dig into and really sit down and just take a look to see where that fit is.
Good. That's really good. It's a good segue into because I love the fit. There's a coach up at the DeSales, Tim Nyman. I'm sure that you know Tim. He's an old school coach. He has a 5-step fit thing that he always talks about, and I always love having him on the program. And it really is something that you hear all the time. So I'm going to kind of have you dig into that a little bit more. What's the most important fit question? Right, you said spiritually, academically, you've got financially, you've got the athletic programs, you've got the socially, you got all of these things. From your perspective and your vast knowledge and seeing all these players and being in a lot of places, what are the kind of rank those? I'd like you to rank those fit criterias.
Well, I would say my criteria has changed over the years. I think when I was a younger coach, I was a little more selfish. Probably, to be honest with you, a little more transactional than transformational. Um, and that's the thing, for me, uh, I had to grow as a coach to really understand the student athlete I was recruiting. I was always worried about, hey, who else is recruiting you? What have they offered you?
Right.
What visits have you taken? And even my last number of years at Jacksonville at the Division I level, I stopped doing that, and I don't ask the kids, who else is recruiting you because I get more concerned with that than the actual student athlete and their family.
Yeah.
And so I would say, for me is number one, you know, academically, because if they're not going to get it done academically, they're not going to get into any school.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and if they are a marginal student, kind of take a look at their history and say, oh, most kids struggle their first 2 years in high school and they're trying to play catch up, on the back end. And I get it. I have 3 boys myself, so and I got 6 grandkids, so I understand that end of it. But so academically, of course, and then number two, of course, it has to be, your athletic ability. Do you fit into Division I, Division II, or junior college, NAIA? Because at the end of the day, you can be the greatest kid in the world and all that good stuff, but your whole idea of going into a certain university or program is to compete and have a chance to play.
Yeah.
And so you got to have the tools. And then for us here, of course, being a Christian university, for me, I think more than anything is, you don't have to be, any certain faith. You don't have to sign a faith statement. You don't have to. We're open and inclusive, which I really love that about OUAZ is you're not pigeonholing, the kids coming in. And so I always share with the family, hey, if there's something on my sleeve that I want to share with the kids, I'm not looking over my shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm going to have that ability to share my faith. And during your journey here as a student athlete, hopefully you can take something from what you've heard here from our coaching staff, from the university, and if that means you've taken an extra step in your journey as a Christian, then that's awesome. Because at the end of the day, and this is where I think I've changed the most in the last 10 to 12 years is, you know, when it's all said and done, I don't think I'm going to get asked well, how many wins I had at the end of the day when it's time to, hopefully,
Meet your maker.
get to those meet my maker. So, But
Hey, there are
I would
wins.
say,
There are wins in that, coach, right? It's just not wins.
yes,
It's
yeah,
not baseball games.
exactly, exactly. So I would, for me, it's, you know, the academic part of it, the athletic part of it, um, the spiritual side for us. For other schools, is probably a little bit different. Um, and then just, what are you looking for going to, a certain university? What are you looking for to go to college? I
Right.
always ask that question. What are you really looking for? And you'll be amazed when you make these kids come in my office and put them on the spot and make them talk and get off their cell phone.
Yeah.
That then all of a sudden you start to hear it, and then I look at the parents, and the parents are like, "Man, I didn't even know he could speak that well," you know. But so I think those are the biggest things for me is because all that other stuff they're going to screw up when they get here in some way, shape, or form. We all are. I mean, we're all a
Right.
bunch of knuckleheads at the end of the day. But you hopefully whatever that fit is, and they come into whatever university, they're going to have a chance with that coaching staff to grow as a person
Right.
first, then as a baseball player second.
It's great. No, coach, you had said something earlier about that experience of maybe 10 years ago. You finally realized that worrying about all these other things, right? Who else is recruiting and what are they offering? And isn't it amazing what experience has to offer? And I think that provides a little insight as far as, going through the career of being a coach. And I guess the question with that is, as you did this and you kind of realized that those things don't really matter at the end of the day, and you had, because the thing that I think people forget is coaches, they're going through the same type of journey these players are, just at a different level. They're just a few decades, maybe a few years ahead of what the player's going. And it's what's even more amazing is a lot of these players going through the journey, they're going to hit another journey called coaching, and they're going to have to start all over. And then they're going to find another place to play or coach. So I love
Yeah.
the idea that you've kind of you've gone through so many different schools and had a lot of experience. I guess the question again is, and maybe advice to coaches. We get a lot of coaches watching this. How do you get that? Is that just experience and it's just trial and error, and maybe kind of like a baseball player, you got to strike out before you figure it out? I mean, what is your advice to maybe help people avoid some of those things that you've gone through? Because I'm always looking for advice myself, and I want to share that advice with others. You go through a hard time. You made the decision to do it, and it was a bad decision. Um,
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of advice on that, Coach.
Amen to that, because I've had a lot of uh, trials, adversities, and I've been blessed to have a lot of positive things on the coaching end side of things. But if I, for the coaches out there, that are looking to get into this or continue the journey, I think at the end of the day, I was blessed. Boy, I was really blessed to have each stop I made. I was the head coaches I worked with. They were all good people.
Right.
It wasn't about them. I mean, Norm DeBryan at Arkansas, Hall of Famer, started that thing. He was there for 33 years. Um, Let me give you a perfect example. I was out recruiting, being the recruiting coordinator there, and I was really kind of shared all those duties with the longtime assistant Doug Clark, who was Norm's. He was with Norm for over like 25 years. So I was blessed to be among those two coaches. But I remember, at the time, I was on the road for probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks straight recruiting during the summer. And I remember calling home, and my wife says, hey, thanks for the flowers. And I'm like, I didn't send any flowers.
I should have. I
And
should have.
now all of a sudden, everything's going through my head, running through my head, going, okay, who's sending my wife flowers? And then I found out. I said, "Is there a card in there?" anywhere. And it was stuck way down in the bottom. And she goes, "Oh, I found it." I said, "Well, read the card." And Coach DeBryan, unknown to me, and he might have forgotten this, but he sent my wife at the time flowers, and it just said, "Thanks for sharing your husband with me, and
That's
helping
awesome.
us, build the this program." And man, that made such an impact on me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you
Yeah.
how much of an impact that made on me. And but he was just such a good person. We when we were on the road, we always went to church together. He never missed going to mass. And now he's actually a deacon of the Catholic Church in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Oh, nice.
And but I was really blessed, to be around some really, really good coaches, and I mentioned almost all of them in the beginning of this podcast. But I would say, if I'm a young coach getting into a program, is see who that head coach is. Do your homework there on that, because that's if your faith is really strong and that's important to you, then just going to a program that's just all baseball, and that coach, you know, isn't that strong in his own faith, then maybe that's not a good match for you.
Right. Right.
Um, and that's just an observation on my end, over the years. Uh, and then secondly, for a young coach, you're going to go through ups and downs, because the kids don't know that you're having a bad day. I mean, when I started this program 7-8 years ago, my first 3 years, my youngest son was had a lot of off the field outside problems that as a lot of families deal with.
Yep.
And so for the first 3 years, I was dealing with my wife and I were dealing with that situation and still trying to start a baseball program.
Right.
And then you got to come to the field and put on that positive face, not knowing that earlier in the day you were dropped down to your knees, with tears in your eyes,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that the coaches are going to experience during their journey, and I would just say embrace it all.
Yeah.
Don't the more you complain, the more negative you get. You're not going to get into this thing and get rich, unless you're I just coached at the wrong time. If I was at Arkansas now, I would have been making about $300,000 as an assistant.
I think we all, yeah, all us old school guys. Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. We laid the path for him. Right. Yeah.
But so I would say embrace,
Yeah.
embrace the adversity that you go through, and learn, just like your players do. When your players have a bad game, or they flunk a class, or they got in trouble off the field, I mean, or something's happened, where they have to learn how to deal with it. Because as a coach, you've got to learn to deal with even more than that,
Yep.
especially if you're married and you have a family.
Yep.
So those are the things I think for young coaches. Number one, see who's running that program if you're going to try to get your foot in the door, and if you align. And then, number two, what's important is baseball, number one, is the development of the players, number one, is just winning, number one, so you have to do an evaluation of yourself.
Right.
And if you're going to stay in this thing for a long time, you've got to know what your priorities are, and don't, never allow your convictions to change because of outside pressures or influence.
That's good. That's good. Coach, this has been a lot of fun. So let's talk about Ottawa University of Arizona. NAIA program. It's a private school, Christian school. Talk a bit about it. What you talked about, how many athletic programs that it has. Really, kind of just give us kind of an idea of the school, and what what are the main majors? What are the kids really excited about, and why do people call it home and make it, a lifetime decision?
Well, as any young NAIA school, that's the thing that I've learned about, over the years that I've been here is, especially at the NAI level in the private school environment, at any school, but especially in this circle, it's all enrollment. We're going to have large rosters. I mean,
Right.
I have two programs. I have a varsity developmental program, and I have a little over 100 players.
Wow.
Um, so, and that's not uncommon for a lot of schools in our conference. Some of them don't have to have uh, a developmental program or JV program is whatever you call it. But you know, our university is, like I said, still brand new. We're still growing. I think if you're looking to get a kind of a holistic approach as a student
Mm-hmm.
and a student athlete, I would say 80% of our student population are athletes. So they're very close. They go to each other's athletic venues and cheer each other on. It's kind of neat. Uh, but the Christian component is I think the main thing here, and I know it's the main thing here. Um, for example, on Wednesdays we have convocation from 10 to 11, or Spirit Life that we call it. We have guest speakers, we have singing, we have praise, really high energy. And then the school breaks off and goes to lunch together over at the student commons, and then they break off into different uh, what they call PGDs, personal growth days,
Okay.
where they can go listen to a CEO talk about resume writing or interview techniques, or they're just different classes that they can sign up for. So our hope as a small private school uh, entity is to get these kids ready for the real world, and that's really important. Uh, we have what we fall one, fall two. Um, we have a flex schedule where it's just most quarters or semesters are 16 weeks. We break them down into 2 8-week segments in the fall and spring, and so you learn the material actually instead of just memorizing it. Hopefully,
That's good.
but so that's all our conference, the GSAC. They've won it's a strong baseball conference, one of the best I think in the country. We've lost a lot of members lately going to Division II, but the last two national champions has come from the GSAC. We now have I believe six teams in Arizona and two now in California. Arizona Christian is also, as Joe over there has done a nice job. They were actually made the NAIA World Series last
Yep.
year.
Yep.
We had our first regional bid. Being a young school, this past year we were in the Georgia Gwinnett Regional. Uh, so, and we've gone through our ups and downs with eligibility problems and everything else, and so I mean it's been a labor of love. But I think Ottawa University, if a parent's looking for a private school Christian environment, uh, I think that's and the area is just absolutely beautiful. Surprises is just booming. I think it's the fifth fastest growing community in the country.
Yeah.
So it's a neat area, and the best thing about it too is, again, we're blessed to be able to play at the Rangers Royal Spring Training Complex every day.
Yeah, you can't beat that. The weather, the facilities, being a new program. I encourage anyone to check out Coach Montez's program, Ottawa University of Arizona. You can find all the information in the Baseball Bluebook. Make sure you download the free app, build a profile, and you can find that under NAIA programs, or you can search directly at the Ottawa University. Coach, it's been a lot of fun getting to know you, learning about your program. I mean, we could have probably talked another hour, 2 hours. I mean, I had so many questions. I forgot that you played at Pepperdine, one of the most beautiful universities I think in the world.
Oh, Well, and that's where you get in trouble because my freshman year, I'll be honest with you, I went surfing more than I went to my 8 o'clock class. I'm not going to lie to you. And
I'm
then my college coach was there after my freshman year, and he looks at me with my report card in my hands, and he says, "You're going to have to make a decision while you're here. Are you going to graduate from 7-Eleven University or Pepperdine University?" And that's all it took.
Well, you made the right decision. So, Coach, been a great time. Thank you very much. Good luck with everything, and you have a good day.
Thank you. Appreciate you. God bless.
Don't go anywhere.